On the phone, joining us tonight is Malcolm Jackson, ex-CIA and Intel officer for the United States, and Governor O'Malley. Thank you and welcome, Malcolm and the Governor. We'd like to thank you for joining us tonight on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100. And we're just going to jump right into this. Malcolm, tell me right here, is this naive on Jared Kushner's behalf, or is this something nefarious and criminal that Flynn and the Trump administration started with the Russian government?
Let's just set aside naivety, okay? Because obviously these are adults, and these are people who would know that establishing a covert communication, and that's what the technical term is here. This is not a back channel. A back channel, as Neera says, is just, sending a note over. This isn't like Roosevelt sending an industrialist over to check up on Nazi Germany. This is actually asking Nazi Germany if you can use one of their ultra encryption systems to send messages directly to Hitler, to use a historical analysis. This is essentially covert communications with an enemy, and that is completely nefarious. It is intensely suspicious. And the question you want to ask yourself is, why did they feel that they needed to have a covert communication system? What were they intending to transmit to our enemies using a covert communication system? There's no difference between this and putting a chalk mark on your mailbox and leaving a hollowed out stone for a foreign intelligence agency to pick up. This is COVCOM, and these guys really, really need to be investigated over it.
So, Malcolm, what should we be doing right now? Tell us what we should be doing right now.
Well, first off, it's bizarre, and I think to a certain extent, a lot of people, certainly in the news media that I've heard over the last 24 hours, are pulling their punches on this thing. This is not bizarre. This is now incredibly suspicious. There is no reason that any of these communications should have happened, much less 18 of them. No other administration in transition has ever had communications with a foreign adversary at all. Certainly not like this one. Now, with regards to Jared Kushner's recommendation, people are saying that maybe he was just naive. This isn't naive. This is a man who came from a $1 billion industry. He knows what the meaning of going into another corporation's headquarters and then using their secure communications would mean, and how that would look certainly to the United States. There is a lot more than why here, which is always the question we in the intelligence community ask. Another question that really needs to be answered, and right now and has been unanswered satisfactorily, is what did he intend to transmit through Russia's secure cryptographic systems to communicate with Vladimir Putin? The presidential daily briefing? The nuclear codes? I don't know, because everyone in intelligence has to assume that that's what he was going to do. And there is no reason that any of this should have happened, and the FBI needs to dig into this right now.
So I want to ask you this for my audience on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100, and I want you to tell me this. Do you think is this criminal, and do you think someone's going to jail in the Trump administration?
Well, look, I think that the Russian interference is unprecedented, and I believe that the collusion of the Trump campaign with the Russians will ultimately be proved to have been criminal collusion. I think that's a very, very real consideration.
I'd like to thank you both for joining me on the telephone tonight and giving our audience the insight. And we're going to have you back when we have more time so you can give us some more insight on what's actually going on. Next, we're going to continue talking about the Trump investigation, and then we're going to go into the Tamir Rice case and the East Cleveland dump. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.
was the man responsible for last year's election results, not the Russians. It was Trump's team's efficiency, he said, and Hillary's mistake, he said, that decided history, not any meddling by Moscow. And yes, his ambassador did meet with the Trump people. They talked about all sorts of things. That's what he gets money for. That's what he said. So now we have Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula, telling us the truth about our 2016 election, except that we really don't need his help. This story develops every day. No thanks to Putin or his friends here in the United States. We know he hacked into the DNC. We know that his and the Trump people were meeting more regularly than the U.S. Congress meets. We know that sanctions were discussed. We know that Trump's people acted to end those sanctions the very day Trump walked into the White House. We know that his people, Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, were getting money from the Russians. We know that his son-in-law was meeting with the top Russian bank president. We know that Trump and his people are using every weapon in their legal vocabulary to keep their testimony and the truth from seeing the light of day. You can believe what you see in broad daylight, or you can believe what Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, is telling you.